Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Bhagavad Gita Grantha Raj Ki Jai. So tonight we have a special program honoring His Holiness Tamal Krsna Maharaj, who is a dear friend of mine and a mentor, and a very exalted devotee and personal associate of Srila Prabhupada. So in the memory of his, we're having this program tonight. So in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said, Sukhe dukhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo tato yudaya yujasva naivam papam avapsyasi. This is a very wonderful verse, second chapter, verse 38. And it says, O Arjuna, will you fight, or do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat? And by so doing, you shall never incur sin. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or gain, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna's transcendental consciousness. So there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. It is said, Devarsi putatmanrinam pitrinam, naking karunayam rini charajan, sarvatmanaya saranam saranyam, gato mukundam paririthyakartam. Anyone who has completely surrendered unto Krishna, or Mukunda, the giver of liberation, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. Bhagavatam 11.541. That is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verses. So the reason I chose this verse is because the life of Tamal Krsna Maharaj is exemplified, or is an example of what is in this verse. He came under the personal tutelage and training of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada taught him to achieve this transcendental position, which is, it's said here, Sukhe dukhe same kritva. So sukhe dukhe. So sukha and dukkha, happiness and distress. One must deal with these with an equal mind. Same. One must not be exalted when there's happiness, nor dejected when there's misery. In the material world, people become very dejected, very unhappy when there's difficult situations and misery and suffering. And they become exalted when there's happiness. And along with that, feeling of exaltation, there's always an element of pride, and that can degenerate into arrogance because they're so successful. Labha labho jaya jayo. So next it says, both in profit and loss, both in victory and defeat. So a person should be same kritva, equal in mind, not disturbed by the defeat, not becoming proud and arrogant and exalted by the success. Tato yudaya yujasva. So Krishna tells Arjuna, you should fight not for success, and you should not fight with any anxiety for defeat. You should fight just for the sake of fighting. In other words, doing your duty. And then it says, Naivam papam avapsyasi. In this way, you will gain, you will not be touched by any sinful reaction. Every time we act in this material world, we perform some sin. We perform some sin also. Like, for example, let's say I want to go to the Safeway. So I get in my car, and as soon as I start my car up and drive a few feet, I already killed hundreds, maybe thousands of living entities. So I committed a sin just by starting my car and driving. Right? Then, when I get out of my car, I walk to the Safeway. I already killed more living entities just by walking. Then I walk into the Safeway, and I buy some meat. I already am participating in killing many innocent animals by buying the meat. So, just going to the Safeway, I have committed hundreds and thousands of sins. I'm not even aware of it. My car is driving, it's driving over ants and microbes and bugs. You know, in the summertime when you're driving down the highway, your windshield becomes sullied by the dead bodies of bugs, right? You know about that, right? And your radiator, too. The bugs run into the radiator, they die. So hundreds and thousands of bugs are being killed by us just by driving down the highway in the summertime. And then sometimes you're driving at night, you run over an animal. You feel the bump as you go over it, but you don't stop. You don't say, oh, Krishna, please excuse me. You just keep driving. So we're killing many, many things, even unconsciously. But it's all being noted down by Yamaraj. Why is it noted down? Because we're killing in the process of pursuing sense gratification. So that's all sinful. But here, Krishna is telling Arjuna that he's going to indemnify him. Indemnify him. Naivam papam avapsyasi. Which means that na evam, never in this way, papam avapsyasi, you will gain sinful reaction. In other words, you'll be free from all sins if you act in this way. Sama sukhe dukhe same kritva labha labho jaya jayo. Tato yudhyaya yudshasva naivam papam avapsyasi. So he says, are you going to fight, Arjuna, just for the sake of fighting, meaning doing your duty, what you have been trained for in your life, that is to fight, to protect the principles of Dharma, not to increase land, not to increase power, not to gain the spoils of war. No, you're fighting simply to protect the principles of Dharma. That's what you've been trained for. And you have to fight according to the rules of engagement. As soon as the sun goes down, all fighting stops. And if you're not fighting with equals, you don't fight. You don't kill innocent women and untrained farmers and unarmed people. You have to fight with equals. People are trained like you're trained to fight, and one will win, one will lose. And there's no retreating. You cannot die with an arrow in your back. It must be in your chest. Otherwise your death is not glorious. So there are many rules of engagement in Vedic fighting, in Vedic war. So if a person fights like that, does their duty, protecting the principles of religion without considering happiness or distress, without considering profit or loss, without considering victory or defeat, then by doing so, one shall never incur sin. Now this is exactly what Prabhupada trained Tamal Krsna Maharaj to do. To engage in Krishna consciousness with all humility and not to expect anything in return. Aslishiva padaratam pinastamam adarsanam marmahato karotuva yata tatava lampato mat prananatas tusa eva naaparaha. Lord Chaitanya prayed also, my dear Lord, you're completely free to do whatever you want. You might make me very happy by hugging me close to your chest, or you might break my bones by crushing me. You're free to do whatever you want, but I will always remain your servant unconditionally. In other words, there's no condition given for serving Krishna. Sometimes people come and say, "Oh, Bhagavan Krishna, if you make my business successful, I'll come back and give you $100 donation." This is nonsense. So what kind of prayer is that? If this, then that. In other words, that means the service that you're offering is conditional. Conditional to Bhagavan making your business successful, or Bhagavan taking your backache away, or Bhagavan getting you your green card to come to America, or Bhagavan doing this or that. So that's not service. That's bargaining with Bhagavan. That's baniya business. You can't call that service. Service is unconditional service. I have no conditions. You do this, you don't do this, doesn't matter, I will serve you. So that's what Lord Chaitanya is teaching. This is what makes Krishna consciousness different than traditional religion. In traditional religious practices, that includes Hinduism, people are all conditional. Just like there was a huge earthquake in Maharashtra, 15 years ago. So there was a interview, Associated Press or CNN interviewed one shop owner in Maharashtra. And he said, "Sir, what do you think about this earthquake? Many people died, a lot of physical damage took place to people's businesses and homes." So the man said, "Now," he said, "I don't believe in my God." He said, "Who's your God?" He said, "Ganapati." He said, "I don't believe in Ganapati anymore." He said, "Why not?" He said, "Well, because my business is ruined and so much damage has been done. Every day," he said, "I pay a Brahmin to come here and do puja to Ganapati so that I will be successful. And look what happened." He said, "What are you going to do now?" He said, "I don't know. I'll worship Allah or I'll anybody. Anyone who makes my business successful, I'll worship." You see? That's called conditional. There's no love there. There's no service. That's why sukhe duke same kritva laba labo jaya jayo. Are you going to fight Arjuna simply for the sake of fighting without consideration of sukha and dukkha, happiness or distress, and laba labo, gain or loss, right? Or victory or defeat. It's easy to serve God when everything is successful. But the proof that one is a devotee is one continues to serve when everything is not successful. That's the proof. Now, that happened to the Pandavas. For 13 years, they lost everything. One time Narada Muni met Krsna and he was smiling. He said, "Hey, Krishna ji," he said, "just see what happened to your devotees." Krishna said, "Oh, what is that?" He said, "Your Pandavas. Their wife was insulted. You did nothing. They lost their wife. You did nothing. Right? And they went into exile. You did nothing." He said, "What? Why should anyone worship you?" And Krishna just smiled. He didn't even deign to give an answer to such ridiculous statements. So then Narada Muni said, "Yes," he said, "they were complete failures," he said, "even though they're your personal devotees. However," he said, "I noticed one thing." And Krishna said, "Oh, what was that?" He said, "The worse, as bad as their situation became," he said, "they never forsake you. In fact, their faith became stronger in you." Krishna smiled. He said, "Now you have understood." You see. There was once a Sikh commander. He had an army of 1,000 soldiers. And there was a Muslim army of 10,000 soldiers that was invading Punjab. So the commander said to his Guruji, he said, "Guruji, Vaheguru," he said, "what do I do?" The Guru said, "You have too many soldiers." He said, "What? I only have 1,000 soldiers. Those Muslims, they have 10,000 soldiers." He said, "Yeah, but you have too many soldiers." So, "Too many soldiers?" He said, "Yes." So you must go on a forced march through the desert for 1 week, but only take 3 days worth of water. He said, "Maharaj," he said, "if I do such a thing, my soldiers will die or they'll abandon me." He said, "That's all right." He said, "Okay, Guruji," said, "I have full faith in you. If you tell me to do this, I'll do it. Although I don't see the logic, I don't understand why, but I'll do it." So he told his soldiers they were going to go on a forced march through the desert with only 3 days quantity of water. And the Guru told them, at any time, every day, from the beginning to the end, you can tell them that they can leave and there will be no repercussions. So, when he announced this, 100 men left immediately, even before the march. Then they started. First day, they had some water. So, they didn't understand why. The Muslim army is over there. They're going in the opposite direction through the desert. But they marched, and at the end of the day, the commander said, "If anyone wants to leave, there's still some water for you. You can walk back. Go back to your farms, your families." 100 men left. End of the second day, he said the same thing, 50 men left. End of the third day, he said, "From this point on, there's no more water. So this is basically your last chance to leave." He said, "And you can leave any time, but this is a good time to leave. You'll get a little bit of water to walk back." So already 250 left. Another 150 men left. End of the fourth day, he said, "Okay, you have a chance to go back. You won't have much water, but you have a chance." So 100 men left. There's only 500 men left. End of the fifth day, he said, "Anyone can leave." 100 men left. End of the sixth day, he said, "Anyone can leave." 300 men left. There's only 100 men remaining. So end of the sixth day, and then they finally reached the destination, and there was a lake of water, and they had reached it early in the morning around 9 o'clock, and he looked at the Guru and said, "Can we drink the water?" He said, "No." He said, "You must stand in attention here until 6 o'clock in the afternoon." So he told his men, "You have to stand in attention until 6 o'clock." And they stood in attention. It was very hot. They hadn't drank any water for 3-4 days. It was so hot, many of them fainted. But the Guru said, no one touched them. When 6 o'clock came, he told the commander, "Now give them an order to slowly walk one by one to drink water. And first they have to give water to the people that have fainted and revive them. And then they walk slowly one by one to drink water. First they have to fetch the water to give to the ones that have fainted." So they did that. And finally, by 9 o'clock, everyone had drank water and they were refreshed. So then the commander said, "Now what do we do?" He says, "Now you march back and attack the Muslims." He said, "What? We only have 100 men." He said, "Yes, but your 100 men are worth 10,000. You'll see. They are proven to be genuine warriors. They'll fight to the death." He said, "I don't understand." He said, "I'll explain to you." Now we walk back. So they walk back, and now they're in position. Muslims had already done a lot of damage. And the commander said, "What do we do now?" He says, "Now you let them rest one day, and then we're going to take the commander of the Muslims. We're going to capture the commander of the Muslims." So how are we going to do that? They have 10,000 soldiers. "Don't worry. I'm going to tell you how to do it." So they created a diversion. The Muslims thought they were being attacked from one place. And even though there were only 10 men that created the diversion, the Muslims panicked. They thought they were being attacked by a lot more people. This is called not only creating a diversion, but creating an illusion. Just like the United States Army and the Allies created an illusion that they were going to attack on Normandy Day a certain part of France. But they attacked somewhere else. And they caught the Germans off guard. And they were able to defeat the Germans in World War II. So the commander did the same thing under the instructions of the Guru. And with 90 men, they were able to take the commander of the Muslims, capture the commander of the Muslims, the entire army. And as soon as they did that, the Muslims retreated. They became confused. And with 100 men, they defeated 10,000, a 10,000-man army. Because each one of those men was proven to be faithful, loyal, brave, and unflinching in their determination to either die or win. You see. So this is the way that Srila Prabhupada trained Tamal Krishna Maharaj to be a leader in the movement. Now we're going to see how that training took place. This is the way we should be trained. How many of us are really dedicated like that to preaching Krishna consciousness? Just like once there was a guru, some man came, said, Maharaj, Asirbat, Maharaj, I love you. He said, okay. He said, what do you want? He said, Maharaj, I hate my wife. I hate this material world. I just want to surrender to you. I no longer want to have anything to do with family, friends, nothing. Just surrender to you. I love you. He said, oh, but I'm very pleased. He said, please, Maharaj, I never want to leave your lotus feet. He said, well, that's a very nice sentiment. So he said, you accept me as your guru? He said, yes, Maharaj. Anything you say, I do from now on. And so I can give you some instruction. Yes, Maharaj, anything you want, I do it. He said, okay, I want you to go back to your family for 1 week. He said, no, I refuse. What what are you telling me? Go back to my wife. I told you I hate my wife. I hate my children. I hate material life. I love you. He said, I know. But you want me to be your guru? The first instruction I give you, you say no. What kind of disciple is that? He said, no, Maharaj. Okay, Maharaj. Why should I go back? Tell me first. He said, why are you asking? You should accept what I say. No, I want to know why. He said, okay. I want you to go back because I want you to go back. And then you can come back after 1 week. He said, what kind of reason is that? Said, are you arguing with me now? First you refused my instruction. Now you're arguing with me. Okay, Maharaj. All right. I'll go back, but under protest I go back. He said, all I think about is you. I love you. I hate this material world. I have no taste for it. And he said, okay, I understand. You just wait 1 week and then you come back. Said, okay, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. So he goes back. So then Maharaj calls up one of his disciples, who's a very rich businessman. And he says to him, Prabhu, he says, there's this man, this is his name, this is his address. Offer him a big position in your factory. He said, Maharaj, anything you say, I'll do. So next day he calls up that man. He said, sir, your name has come to our attention. We have learned that you're a highly qualified person, and we want to offer you a position as a manager in my factory, and 3 lakhs of rupees a month. What do you say? The man said, he said, how did you find out about me? He said, no, we did a headhunt through through the internet, and your name came up as a very qualified manager. Really? I didn't even know I was on the internet. I said, yes, you are. He said, so, okay, listen, we'll give you 5 lakhs of rupees. I said, really? What should I do? He said, come in today for an interview. I said, okay, I'm coming. So he goes in, he gets the job. So the next day he calls up Maharaj and says, Maharaj, I love you. I love you too much. The dust of your lotus feet is my prasad. I said, oh, thank you. He said, so you be coming back at the end of the week. Maharaj, he said, something very important has happened. And anyway, don't call me, I'll call you. Thank you very much. And he hung up. Story's finished. You see? He was tested, and what did he do? He failed the test of the Guru. All this, I love you, Maharaj, Asirbad, all nonsense. Had no meaning at all. As soon as he was tested, he failed. See? So, all of us are going to be tested. We want to come to Krishna? Well, Krishna tells his tester, Durgama, to see whether the disciple is serious or not. So Durga Mata is going to test us. And the test gets harder and harder the closer we come to Krishna. So, Tamal Krishna Maharaj writes, the training which Prabhupada had begun in San Francisco now became a thorough course in all aspects of Krishna consciousness. Sometimes he would have me read his correspondence to him and then would ask me how to reply to the letter. So Prabhupada would get sometimes 20, 30 letters a day from devotees around the world, and he had to answer them. And if you read his letters book, sometimes he would answer over 100 letters a month or more. When I would suggest what I thought was the best way to handle a particular matter, he would patiently explain how my reply would cause the person to feel one way or another. This practical instruction was invaluable to me because it trained me to deal with the devotees in a much more Krishna-conscious manner. You see, when we come to Krishna consciousness, we bring some baggage with us. Baggage is, how we learn to defend ourselves and to present ourselves and to deal with others in the material world from the point of view of wanting to be materially successful. So everybody learns their little tricks. Okay? Just like once I was with my mother and she said, "You have a handkerchief?" I said, "No." She said, "Get one immediately." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because you need it." I said, "Why do I need it? I don't have a cold or anything." He said, No. You have to have a handkerchief." I said, "Why?" She said, "Because if anyone ever comes and asks you to borrow money, you have to take your handkerchief out." I said, "What does that have to do with borrowing money?" She said, "As soon as you take your handkerchief out, you begin to cry, and you don't stop crying until they go away." She said, "In life, you might be successful. As soon as you're successful, people come and ask to borrow money from you. So you just start crying, and don't stop until they go away. Just keep crying and blowing your nose and crying and crying. Then, when they go away, then you put your handkerchief back." She said, "If you don't have a handkerchief, you won't be able to do it as realistically as if when you do." So this is a technique that my mother had learned, right? How to navigate through material life. All these things are material, but everybody learns one technique or other and how they deal with people. You have any techniques, Prabhu? Huh? You don't need the handkerchief. You just say no, right? Okay, so we bring that baggage with us when we come to Krishna consciousness, and it takes time to figure out, to learn not to use those tricks in our relationships with devotees and with people in general, because we have to learn to relate to people as Vaishnavas, not as materialists. And there's a period where that change of consciousness takes place, and sometimes it can be a very long and painful process for some people who are very, let's say, adept at getting ahead materially by taking advantage of others. Just like there was this one businessman in Bombay who's a devotee now, but he was a very big businessman. So he met Prabhupada, but he didn't take initiation the reason why he didn't take initiation was that because he was a big businessman, and he said, as businessmen, we always try and find the weakness in the other person, and then we take advantage of that weakness for getting a favorable business deal. So he said, when I met Prabhupada, I was looking for his weakness. So I tested him every time I met him, whether he was greedy, whether he was lusty, whether he could get angry easily, whether he was really interested in my spiritual progress or not. And he said, over a period of a couple of years, every time I met him, I kept testing him, and I couldn't find anything wrong. But because I was more interested in testing him rather than passing his test, I never got initiated. He said, that was my misfortune. But he said, I'm telling you this because I want you to know I'm an expert at testing people, find their weakness. I couldn't find any weakness in Prabhupada. So this is the baggage that we come to Krishna consciousness with, and it takes time to clean that up. So here Prabhupada was instructing Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and he says, this practical instruction was invaluable because it trained me to deal with the devotees in a much more Krishna conscious manner. That's the whole point. See? Prabhupada was actually showing me how to practically apply the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita in everyday dealings. This is the hardest thing to learn. If we don't learn how to apply the teachings of Bhagavad Gita in everyday dealings, we'll use that baggage of social interaction that we learned as a materialist to deal with people and devotees in everyday dealings. And that'll be a catastrophe. That'll be a catastrophe. The test of my realization would not only be known by how well I could give class, but in how much I was able to encourage the devotees to increase their devotional service. That's the point. Matchita matkita prana bodhyantas parasparam katyantas chamam nitya tusyanticha ramanticha. So in the Bhagavad Gita, one of the nutshell verses of the Bhagavad Gita, around which the whole Gita is written, in the 10th chapter, says that the thoughts of my pure devotees dwell in me. Their lives are fully devoted to my service, and they derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about me. Tusyanticha ramanticha. This is a real devotee. And this is what Tamal Krishna's Maharaj is saying. See, in material life, people, just like I had one friend, he was a businessman. He would call me up and always complain about how bad his business was doing. And that would give me, I would say, why is he saying this? My natural reaction was, oh, I'm glad he's doing bad, I'm doing better. Right? But then I was thinking, this is nonsense what I'm thinking. And why is he always, because I knew he wasn't doing bad, he was doing very good. Why is he telling me that? Because he wanted me to feel sorry for him so I would buy things from him. You see. He was a very clever guy. He was doing very good in business, but he'd always say, oh, business is bad. This one client didn't pay me, and I made a mistake here, and not getting enough business this month. His whole strategy was to make me feel sorry for him so I would buy things from him. You see. Very smart. Very smart. Then I learned that technique. So whenever people say, how's business? Oh, it's not so good anymore, If you say, oh, it's wonderful, this thing happened, people get envious, But if you say it's very bad, then they get happy. So, oh, good, I'm glad he's not doing good, You see, these are all, this is a type of diplomacy that people learn, as they advance materially. So, Tamal Krishna Maharaj is saying that, but in the test of my realization would not only be known by how well I could give class, but in how much I was able to encourage the devotees to increase their devotional service. This says, tusyanticha ramanticha, feeling great satisfaction and transcendental bliss by conversing with devotees, making them feel hopeful. Every time Prabhupada would give a class, every time we would read any statement Prabhupada made, it would give us hope. There's hope for me also to make spiritual advancement. But when you talk to people who are not fixed up in Krishna consciousness, you become depressed. You say, oh my God, there's no hope. Even though they're devotees, but they haven't learned this art of encouragement. So they'll say things, like I know some people, every time I talk to them, I feel very discouraged. They say, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. This is not allowed. No, you can't do that. What do you mean, no? I don't want to hear no. If I keep hearing no, I feel as if I can't do anything. I want to hear yes. The one meaning of Om is yes, Krishna. When people say, you can't do this, you can't do that, that's not allowed, oh no, this, then you feel discouraged. What can I do then? Right? Just like kids, kids say, Daddy, can I drive the car? No. Daddy, can I come with you? No. Daddy, can I? No. A kid feels discouraged. Every time he asks something, it's always no. But Om means yes, Krishna, I will do it. Yes, I can. This is Obama's famous statement. Yes, we can. Yeah. So, but that yes encourages people. So I was aware that such intensive training was not meant simply for my personal benefit, but that there was a greater obligation to share whatever I gained with my God brothers and God sisters. So Prabhupada said, what use is there to go to the grave with your knowledge. Before you go to the grave, you should share your knowledge with others. Just like we're going to have a display at the Ananda Mela about the life of Jagadish Chandra Bose, the greatest scientist in the history of India. Why was it, in fact, one of the greatest scientists in world history? Why was he so great? Because he used the Vedic knowledge as an impetus for his scientific research. Therefore, in the height of the mechanical revolution in the 19th century, Jagadish Chandra Bose proved that plants are responsive in the same way as animals and human beings. Nobody else was thinking about plants. They were all thinking about machines. And he does experiments to prove that plants also have a soul. Very interesting. In 1901, he proved it in front of the Royal Academy of Scientists in London. And they were stunned. They said, how will this advance our machines? Right? They're into mechanical revolution, and he's into plant evolution, proving that plants also have a soul. Plants react to pain. Plants react to music. Plants react to affection. Right? And he proved it with scientific experiments, with instruments that measured microscopic responses of plants. No one else is thinking about plants. They're thinking about making airplanes and cars, and he's talking about plants. Very interesting. He's one of the greatest scientists in history. He discovered microwaves. He discovered semiconductors. He discovered the radio before Marconi. But the reason he didn't get credit for all those things is because he didn't believe in patenting. He wanted his knowledge to be shared to help others, not to exploit others by patenting. So Marconi got the credit for discovering the radio, whereas Jagadish Chandra Bose discovered it 2 years before him. And then he discovered he was able to use electromagnetic waves to do things, and that was the basis of your cell phone, television, radio, all these things. And he discovered all these things way before others. Now, we should share our knowledge with others. Just like sometimes I've gone to someone's house, one Gujarati family, and they made very good kanvi. This is Gujarati special. So I asked the lady, I said, can you show me how to make it? She said, oh, okay, but I have a little sore back today. I can't show you today. So that was her excuse not to show me. Right? She didn't want to show me. She didn't want me to know how to make it. She had a secret. And sometimes even our own devotees, you say, oh, Prabhu, how did you make this? Oh, okay, I'll show you later on. They don't want to share their knowledge. They want to have that little edge on everyone else, right? Because anytime you make something really good, there's some secret there. They figured out some secret, or they learned from their grandmother or something, but they don't want to share it. But Prabhupada shared everything because he wanted his devotees to become genuine Vaishnavas. And for them, as Tamal Krsna Maharaj is saying here, so they would share what Prabhupada was teaching them with others. So I was aware that such intensive training was not meant simply for my personal benefit, but that there was a greater obligation to share whatever I gained with my God brothers and God sisters. Prabhupada was investing so much time with the expectation that I would in turn act as his representative, communicating his desires to the other devotees at the temple. It was a grave responsibility, which I was barely capable of assuming, For my attachment for Prabhupada was not any greater than that of my other god brothers. Well, this is an honest assessment. He's saying my attachment for Prabhupada was not any greater than any of my other god brothers. In other words, this is a very revealing statement. A person's position in Krishna consciousness is determined by how much faith they have in Krishna and the Vaishnava Parampara. Some people have a little bit of faith, some people have a lot of faith. So the position is determined. Just like, for example, let's say someone is having some problem, and they ask someone to give them advice, a devotee. And the devotee says, Prabhu, you have to improve your chanting. And they say, okay. But they don't try. They don't try to improve their chanting. They just said, okay, but they don't take the medicine. Just like you go to a doctor, you pay him $100 for an examination. He gives you medicine and gives you details how to take it. You go home and throw the medicine in the garbage can. Well, why did you go to a doctor in the first place? So, if you have faith in the doctor, then you also should have faith in the doctor's advice. Is it not? So, the position of a person in Krishna consciousness depends on the faith they have in Krishna and Guru Parampara. And based on that faith, they'll either follow or not follow the advice. So, Tamal Krsna Maharaj is saying here, it was a grave responsibility which I was barely capable of assuming, because my attachment for Prabhupada was not any greater than that of my other god brothers. So he's saying there were other god brothers that had as much or more attachment for Prabhupada than me. So Prabhupada was giving me this grave responsibility, sharing what he was telling me with my other god brothers. But by doing that, there's one interpretation of the statement. It evens the playing field. If he shares completely what Prabhupada has given him with his other god brothers, that means they have an equal chance as he does to please Prabhupada. But if he doesn't, then he has an advantage. You see? That's one way of interpreting this statement. Another way is that why should he have this grave responsibility? Why not the other god brothers? Right? Because he did not estimate that he had more attachment for Prabhupada than the others. But see, that's where the grave responsibility comes. If a person has some self-interest, they won't be able to share the knowledge with others because they want to keep an advantage for themselves and a disadvantage for others. After one morning meeting, Prabhupada urged, just try to become convinced that Krishna is God. I was just a neophyte devotee with only a little faith in Krishna, and yet Prabhupada was pushing me, forcing me to accept more and more responsibility. So this is very interesting. Once Prabhupada wrote me a letter, and he said that when your service increases and your responsibility increases, you should take this as the special mercy of Lord Chaitanya. So, there are many people who don't want to increase their responsibility in Krishna consciousness. They find a level plateau, a low intensity plateau, and they say, I'll just do a little bit like this, and I'm happy. So, we saw this when we tried to build this temple. At least 50% of the devotees said, why do we need a new temple? We're happy with our temple. What would have happened if we stayed satisfied with the temple we had, that little shack, right? Look at how many people have been benefited by the fact that we built this temple, right? But to build it required a tremendous amount of sacrifice by all the devotees, So at first, some people were not willing to. They said, "We're happy with what we have. Why do we have to increase?" But it doesn't matter if you're happy. What matters is if Krishna is happy. That's what matters. You think Krishna wants to stay in a little broken down shack with cockroaches and rats and the floor going up and down with the danger of the whole house collapsing? I don't know if you remember in the old house, whenever we jump up and down, the floor would go like this, and the walls would shake. It was like a house of cards. But somehow or other we stayed in there and we came out successful. And then when we first wanted to do the first Kumbh Mela festival in Marymore Park, a lot of people didn't want to do it. They said, why should we do this? It's not, whatever Harivilas is saying is a bunch of nonsense. We'll never be able to do it. But yet, by doing it, by all the sacrifice in doing it, we were able to build the temple because it changed our image to the public. So, we just covered a little bit today. I actually have 7 more quotes I wanted to go through, but we'll just be satisfied with this. This has a lot of deep meaning to it. To understand how preferential Tamal Krsna Maharaj was in the eyes of Prabhupada. He gave him a lot of personal training because he trusted him not only to be competent in carrying out his orders, but also to train others. And I'm one of those people that he trained. He spent a good month training me in Krishna consciousness, intensive training. And I can never repay that debt of gratitude to him for spending that time with me, teaching me how to become Krishna conscious and how to also become a leader in Krishna consciousness. Because of him that I became a temple president. Even though I've only in the movement a short period of time, a few weeks, he made me temple president and gave me all that responsibility. Okay, so are there any questions anyone would like to ask? All right, so I'm going to read one more thing. This is a lesson in humility that Prabhupada taught Tamal Krsna Maharaj. And he says, one day I brought a painting done by our artist, Muralidhara, for Prabhupada's approval. On Prabhupada's request, Muralidhara had reproduced on canvas the Srimad Bhagavatam jacket cover showing the spiritual sky. As I held the painting up, Prabhupada began to explain the plan of the creation. First, he pointed to where Krishna was and described how the entire creation was an expansion of Krishna's energy. The Vaikuntha planets, broad and effulgent, were unlimited in number. Then Prabhupada pointed to the corner of the painting where the material world was situated. Mahavishnu is lying down there, and millions of universes emanate from his skin holes, Prabhupada said. Each universe is filled up with unlimited numbers of living entities who inhabit all of the planets and stars. One of these planets, see that right there is contrary to what modern astronomers and scientists believe. They don't believe that every planet, every star in the universe is inhabited. But according to the Vedas, everyone is inhabited. Prabhupada said, each universe is filled up with unlimited numbers of living entities who inhabit all the planets and stars. One of these planets is our Earth. And on this planet are many continents. On one continent, there is America. And in America, there are so many big cities. Here is Los Angeles. And in Los Angeles, there is a street, La Cienega Boulevard. On that boulevard, among all of the buildings, is a temple of Lord Krishna. And in this temple, there is one Tamal Krishna. He is there, and is thinking that he is very important. Then Prabhupada looked at me and smiled. He was showing me how unimportant I really was. The lesson was clear. No one had the right to become puffed up, no matter how important his position might seem to be. In comparison with Krishna, the cause of all causes, each jiva is tiny and insignificant. But despite this vast difference between the Lord and a living entity, Krishna allows his pure devotees to associate with him equally. Prabhupada was kindly revealing the unlimited extent of Krishna's glories. His silent smile communicated the deep love he felt for Krishna and his desire to share it with his disciples. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Radha Nilamada ki jai. So now we'll have our Guru Puja for Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Pushpanjali offering. Shri Guru Charana Prabhu, Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati Sadma, Shri Guru Charana Padma.
Shri Guru Charana Padma, Kevala Bhakati Sadma. Vandamui Savadana Mate. Jahara Prasade Bhai, E Bhavatori Ajay. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoyte. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoyte. Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitete Koriya Kya. Arna Koriya Mane Asa. Arna Koriya Mane Asa. चक्षुरांदिलो रे जमे जमे प्रभु से चक्षुरांदिलो रे जमे जमे प्रभु से चक्षुरांदिलो रे दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित दिव्य ज्ञान हृदय प्रकाशित प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते आविरावि जैसा जगते प्रेम भक्ति आविराविनाशा जगते प्रेम भक्ति जहाँ होते आविराविनाशा जगते वेद गाय जहर चरित वेद गाय जहर चरित श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनार बंधु श्री गुरु करुणा सिंधु आधम जनार बंधु लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना लोकेनाथ लोकेर जीवाना आहा प्रभु कोर दया देह मोरे पद आहा प्रभु कोर दया देह मोरे पद एवे जास घुसु त्रिभुवाना एवे जास घुसु त्रिभुवाना जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेवा जय गुरुदेव 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 जय जय गुरुदेव जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 जय जय प्रभुपाद निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल ओ निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल हरि बोल हरि बोल निताय गौर हरि बोल कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama. Oh Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaura Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Gaura Hari Bol.
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Samkunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavana Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Ganga Maya Ki Jai. Jamuna Maya Ki Jai. Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jai Gaura Premananda. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Paramahansa Pachasa Tarasati Sisi Samanasa Maya Grace Bhakti. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada. So Maharaj Ki Jai. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Gaura Premanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So we're going to begin the Pushpanjali ceremony, and we'll all repeat together. Om Aganyatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksur Unmilitam Yena Shri Gurave Namaha Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto my spiritual master, who has opened my eyes, which were blinded by the darkness of ignorance, with the torchlight of knowledge. Shri Chaitanya Manubhishtam stapitam yena bhutale swayam rupa kadamayam dadati swapadantikam. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, who has established within this material world the mission to fulfill the desire of Lord Chaitanya, give me shelter under his lotus feet? Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Patakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaguna Ragunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishaka Nivitamscha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master and of all the other preceptors on the path of devotional service. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnavas and unto the 6 Goswamis, including Srila Rupa Goswami, Srila Sanatan Goswami, Raghunatha Dasa Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and their associates. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Sri Advaita Acharya Prabhu, Sri Nityananda Prabhu, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all his devotees, headed by Srivasa Thakur. I then offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, Srimati Radha Rani, and all the gopis headed by Lalita and Vishaka. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Iti Namini. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namini. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paschatya Desatarine. Our respectful obeisances are unto you, O spiritual master, servant of Saraswati Goswami. You are kindly preaching the message of Lord Chaitanya Deva and delivering the Western countries, which are filled with impersonalism and voidism. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine Shivarsavanuvi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Dayane Prabhave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who is very dear to Lord Krishna, having taken shelter at his lotus feet. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Varsabhanavi Devi Daitaya Dasa, another name of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who is favored by Srimati Radharani, and who is the ocean of transcendental mercy, and the deliverer of the science of Krishna. Madhur Ujvala Premadya Shri Rupa Nuga Bhaktida Shri Gora Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namostute Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Dinatarine Rupanuga Virudapa Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, the personified energy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, who delivered devotional service enriched with conjugal love of Shri Shri Radha and Krishna, coming exactly in the line of revelation of Srila Rupa Goswami. I offer my respectful obeisances unto you, who are the personified teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You are the deliverer of the fallen souls. You do not tolerate any statement against the teachings of devotional service enunciated by Srila Rupa Goswami. Namo Gora Kishoraya Shakshad Vairagya Murtaye Vipralambara Sambodhe Padambu Jayate Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Gaura Kishora Dasa Babaji Maharaj, the spiritual master of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, who is renunciation personified. He is always merged in a feeling of separation and intense love of Krishna. Namo Bhakti Vinodaya Sachid Ananda Namine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupa Nuga Varayate. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Srila Satchitananda Bhakti Vinod, who is the transcendental energy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He is a strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa Goswami. Gauravir Baba Bhumestvam Nirdesta Sajjana Priya Vaishnava Sarvabhuma Shri Jagannatayate Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances to Srila Jagannatha Dasa Babaji, who is respected by the entire Vaishnava community, and who confirmed the discovery of the place where Lord Chaitanya appeared. Vanchakalpatarabhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord. They are just like desire trees who can fulfill the desires of everyone, and they are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Padayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gurachase Namaha. O most munificent incarnation, you are Krishna himself appearing as Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. You have assumed the golden color of Srimati Radharani, and you are widely distributing pure love of Krishna. We offer our respectful obeisances unto you. Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Saktikam. I offer my obeisances unto the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is non-different from his features as a devotee. Devotional manifestation and devotional incarnation, pure devotee and devotional energy. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. O my dear Krishna, O ocean of mercy, O friend of the distressed and the source of creation, O master of the cowherd men and the lover of the gopis, especially Srimati Radharani, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Jayatam Surator Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarva Swapadam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano. Glory to the all-merciful Radha and Madana Mohan. I am lame and ill-advised, yet they are my directors, and their lotus feet are everything to me. Divyat Vindaranya Kalpajumadaha Shrimad Ratnagara Simhasanastato Shrimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prestali Bihi Savyamano Smarami. In a temple of jewels in Vrindavana, underneath a desire tree, Shri Radha Govinda, served by their most confidential associates, sit upon an effulgent throne. I offer my humble obeisances unto them. Shiman Rasarasarambi Vamsivatatastita Karsanvenu Swaner Gopir Gopinathakstriyestuna. Shri Srila Gopinath, who originated the transcendental mellow of the rasa dance, stands on the shore in the Vamsivata and attracts the attention of the cowherd damsels with the sound of his celebrated flute. May they all confer upon us their benediction. Tapta Kanchana Gorangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanustute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye. For my respectful obeisances to Srimati Radharani, whose bodily complexion is like molten gold, and who is the queen of Vrindavana. You are the daughter of King Vrishabhanu, and you are very dear to Lord Krishna. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Tamal Krishna Goswami Iti Namini Pushpanjali Swaha. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Bolo, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimati Tamal Krishna Goswami Iti Namini Pushpanjali Swaha. Krishna Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Tamal Krishna Goswami Iti Namine Pushpanjali Swaha. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So we should all thank tonight Rasavati Devi Dasi. And we should all try and follow her example of her love and dedication to her spiritual master, Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj. This is the way we can understand something about who he was, by seeing her and how he has influenced her life, her dedication, her purity, her sincerity. Those are all the hallmarks of the super excellent teaching that she's received and the example she's been inspired by from her spiritual master. So you can glorify spiritual master by your behavior, and in that way we can understand that Rasavati Devi is a very sincere disciple of Tamal Krishna Maharaj, and we're very fortunate to have her here, and also very fortunate tonight to honor Goswami Maharaj as a community. So thank you very much. And now we can have Mahaprasad. All glories to Prabhupada. Haribol. What's that? Good. So, enjoying distributing this?
Yeah, just like him.
Yeah. People know about you?
Most know about those they're asking which kid is coming. Shastri was there and they're very happy.
Good.
Good response. People know they're coming out from their house.